The session is recorded, so you are going to, you will have time to play back for future purpose. And this topic is basic. Module 3 is basically about STP and branding, and the other one is for week 6 we are going to discuss product. Okay, I'm going to highlight some more some key points from this topic. Okay. Now, before we move on, can I recommend you personally that to understand the process of STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning? The reason for that is because this is probably the core strategy of a business. So whatever you decide to do after you finish school, or in the future, either HR or sales or operations or marketing or R&D, quality, and so on and so forth. Understanding the positioning of your company helps you to contribute to in your role, actually. Okay, right. Now, again, that's the one that we are going to discuss, and a few things that look. I do expect that for your assessment 3, if you can focus on consumer markets instead of business markets, that's my recommendation. I mentioned this as well briefly in the previous subject, in the previous topic. So please, yes, because business market is probably a little more challenging for us to analyze. Okay. Okay. Now, the first thing I'd like to discuss is the segmentation, and you may recall that in the previous. In module 1, I discussed the what marketing is all about. Okay, and the process of marketing. We also discussed about understand, create, communicate, and deliver. All right. So part of understand is actually we need to understand our customers, who our customers are. Okay. Now this is what we mean by segmentation. Okay, it is actually the process of dividing a large population into smaller market segments. Right. So if we have let's say we have 24 million people in Australia, okay, and in my experience conducting marketing research in Asia Pacific region, we may come up, if we do thorough marketing research, we may come up to 6 to 8 market segments. Okay, let's say 6 market segments, right? After we discount the guys who are not relevant to our industry. Okay, so that's actually what we mean by segmentation. Okay, we segment them into several groups. We divide them into smaller market segments. Okay, let's say we call them as segment A, B, C, D, E, and F. Now, of course, in real life, you may want to use your marketing jargons, your marketing concepts to label them, like the budget guys or smart guys or whoever they are, right? In your segmentation definition. Okay. Right, so we come up with the market segments. In other words, the outcome of segmentation process is market segments. Okay, so after we complete this process, we should get what we call as market segments. Okay, and these market segments actually contain similar characteristics. If we zoom into each market segment, we should be able to find members who share similar characteristics. Okay, but if we compare these market segments to the other market segments, we will actually find differences. Otherwise, there are no reasons we put them into different market segments. Okay, so that's the logic behind a market segment. Okay, the question is, why do we do market segments? A number of reasons why we do it. One of the reasons is basically to manage our resources better. If we don't do market segments, that means we need to manage our resources to communicate to everybody, for instance, right? So that helps us. So market segments actually helps us managing our own resources. Okay. Now, in terms of market segments, there are several approaches, not only one, but the ones I'm going to discuss with you is this one here, because this is the one that you need to use. In terms of, we are coming back to that spot later. This is the ones that we recommend you to do, and please use these 4 segmentation variables for your assessment 3. Okay, so why these 4? Because they are fundamental. They are the basic thing. All right. before we move on to different approaches, please understand this one, okay? So let's briefly look at them. Demographic segmentation variable is different to demographic forces in environmental analysis. Demographic forces in environmental analysis actually refers to the study of human population, okay, in terms of age, gender, and so on and so forth. It is actually about the population that we are analyzing, okay? Demographic segmentation variable actually tells us which group of people from demographic perspective that we expect to become our customers, okay? So please make sure that you understand the difference between demographic variable in segmentation and demographic force in environmental analysis, okay? Now, this demographic segmentation variable actually, we divide the large population into small market segments based on this, okay? And geographic actually, you know, if you say that my target market are those who live in the key cities in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, and so on and so forth, that means we are using geographic variables, okay? Or we can also say my target market is the basically those who live in the urban, for instance, okay? Psychographic includes personality, motives or values, and also lifestyles. Okay, so if we say our target market basically adopts outdoor lifestyles, for instance, when you use those expression, you're actually using psychographic segmentation. And behavioral is interesting. It is actually about the attitudes and knowledge of the customers about our products. Okay, in terms of what, you can look at it from the usage, such as volume that they use, whether they are heavy users or light users, or whether, based on the end use benefit that they expect, their loyalty, right? The user status, for instance, whether they are users or non-users, or based on the occasion that they use. Okay, so basically that's the they are the segmentation variables. Okay, right. So now we know that. The segmentation variables that we can use to understand our target market, okay? The next thing after we understand them is actually, after we understand the segmentation is actually to decide the targeting strategies, okay? Now, targeting strategies, actually there are three perspectives in terms of targeting strategies, okay? The first perspective is actually adopted by companies who believe that all customers are the same. All customers are the same. Okay. Now these guys actually adopt what we call as mass marketing strategy or undifferentiated. Okay? Undifferentiated marketing strategy. Right. Look, in today's business landscape, unless you are a monopoly holder, it is hard for you to adopt mass marketing strategy. Okay? If you think about City Water, for instance, well, they are basically the monopoly holder, even though they're also under pressures if you look at the drink water category, because you know, a lot of players address that through grocery channel. Okay, so that's the first perspective that generates mass marketing strategy. The company that adopts this basically creates one thing, one offering for everybody. Okay, one size fits everybody. Okay. The second perspective is actually adopted by those who believe that all customers are not the same. All customers are different. So they create what we call as one-to-one marketing strategy, okay? Or they customize their offering. Okay, so they customize their offering. Okay, these companies will individualize their offering, and a good example for this one is basically small business, where they are quite flexible to customize their offering. You can look at hairdressers, for instance, right? So obviously, you don't want to get the same haircut as our brother or sister, basically. So it is customized to us. It is customized to what we want, okay? And in between, we have what we call as segmented targeting strategy, segmented marketing strategy, okay? This is actually applied by companies who believe that the customers are not the same, but we can segment them. We can group them based on similarities. Okay, we can group them based on similarities. This is where we talk about segmenting them. Okay, we segment them based on certain characteristics, certain attributes. Okay, so that's basically the targeting strategies in a nutshell. And if you look at that, we have the undifferentiated targeting strategy, for instance, homogeneous market. Next one, and concentrated targeting strategy, which is basically the, similar things to the targeted marketing strategy, where the company normally capitalizes the all efforts to meet one segment only. Okay. And the next one is differentiated. Still in the differentiated, we can expect the companies create different offering for different market segments. Okay, so if you think about business like large businesses normally adopt this. Think about let's say Camel Anus, for instance. They have biscuits. They have offering for kids. They have offering for women. They also have offering for teenagers, and they have offering for those who have health concern, for instance. Okay, contrast that with the concentrated, where they understand that customers are different, and we can group them in the same based on the similarities, but they only want to service certain market segment only. The entire company's effort is only to service one segment only. Okay, you may recall that they used to Sensodyne, for instance, is an example. Before it was acquired by GSK, they couldn't compete directly with the market leader Colgate-Palmolive. Okay, now in today's business landscape, you may find it hard to understand a niche marketing strategy or concentrated marketing strategy, because the segment may get larger, especially if the market leader comes on board. Okay, but not all in retail grocery channel is actually a niche marketer. Okay, they do not want to compete directly with the large players such as Woolies and Co. So they open they have small stores, but they open quite long, and the big boys can't compete with that kind of offering. Okay, so that's basically segmentation and targeting. And briefly, this is a bit more about segmentation, gender-based segmentation, etc., etc. In saying that, though, you also need to evaluate whether your segmentation variable is critical or not to differentiate your customers. If not, then don't use that one. Don't use that category. Gender-based, for instance, is an example. Some product categories don't need that. Can't differentiate their segments based on gender because male and female basically consume that product. But in some instances, a brand may be able to use gender-based segmentation. Okay? Right, so look, I'm not going to discuss this in detail. Please go through it. And now the other thing that we also need to look at is the reasons why we select certain market segments. As we discussed before, the market segments, the segmentation analysis helps us to understand the market segments. Okay, let's say we have 6 market segments. There you go, I'm back with my drawing. And the next decision that we need to make is to decide which one is that. And that goes back to the targeting strategy that we discussed before. Okay. In other words, targeting strategy is actually about evaluating and selecting which market segment that you want to compete. Okay. Based on what? 2 things that we need to look at. From external perspective, we need to assess the attractiveness of the market. Okay, we need to assess the attractiveness of the market in terms of size, growth, competitiveness, profitability, and so on and so forth. Okay. The second thing is based on internal assessment, whether we have the capability to compete in that market segment or not. That requires us to look at the resources, for instance. Okay. For instance, segment A is probably attractive. The growth is fantastic. The size is fantastic. The profitability is fantastic. However, the market is so competitive. More and more competitors coming in, okay, which actually, in theory, will give pressures to the profitability. Okay, then the question for us is whether we want to compete in segment A or not. Okay, so that is the issue in targeting strategy. Okay. Right. So we have discussed checked our market segments. We have also discussed the targeting strategy. The next thing that we need to do is to create the positioning. Okay, so positioning is actually actually reflects the how the product is defined by its customers based on its important attributes. In other words, it is the specific image in the customer's mind to describe the brand. Okay, so that's what we mean by positioning. Okay, in terms of positioning, you may want to start with the perceptual map or positioning map. That is the first thing that you want to do. Now, this is recommended, guys, for you to to draw a perceptual map or positioning map for your assessment 3 when it comes to positioning analysis, because it is a starting point for marketers to develop their own positioning statement. Okay. Now, what does perceptual map do? Okay, in the perceptual map is actually reflects the visualization of the competitiveness in the consumer's mind. Okay, so we normally use multiple attributes. Now this one here is probably a little bit oversimplified because we only use two variables, quality and price. Okay, for your assessment, you can also use price and quality. If you I understand that, and it is assessment, but I will hear this feedback from me. Look, I'm not going to. What I'm saying is basically I appreciate your attempt to create the perceptual map. Okay, that is fantastic actually. Okay, so you can use these two variables, these two attributes, price and quality. And we know that when we map a brand, we need more than just two attributes. Okay, if you think about hotel, mobile phone, for instance, you can tell us a number of attributes. Some customers may say, I want good cameras, I want good pictures. And the other guys may say, I want good connectivity, strong connectivity. And the other guys may say, I want brand reputation or battery, long-lasting battery, and so on and so forth. But based on that, you can map them. Okay? So it's more like, in real life, it is more like multiple attributes, actually, in terms of perceptual map. Okay? So that's the first thing. The purpose of perceptual map is actually to find out where we compete, where we sit in the competition. All right? And then we find the best way to compete in the market. Okay, but before we do that, we actually try to define our positioning strategy. Okay, now the positioning strategy itself is actually I would recommend you to write your positioning statement. Right, write a positioning statement, which is actually defined as a statement that encapsulates the positioning of the brand or the company. Okay, how do we write it? You can use this formula: to whom or target market. Okay, with what needs. Okay. Our brand is what? Concept. Okay, so that's how we write a positioning statement. Oh, okay, there you go. Our brand is what? Okay. And actually, you can also add with the with points of differentiation to convince the stakeholders, including the customers. Okay, so if you look at Aldi brands, for instance, the target market is arguably a budget or budget conscious people. To the budget conscious people, okay, to the budget conscious customers, okay. With the need of saving their money, okay, Aldi is affordable. Okay, what's the evidence, or what is the point of differentiation? Well, the store is smaller than Woolies and Coles because they want to manage the costs, and the product that they offer, the range of product that they offer is much limited than Woolies and Coles because they only want to focus on the uncertain range. Okay, so that helps us to understand what their positioning strategy. Okay, all right. So hopefully that gives you an idea in terms of a positioning statement. Now the next thing that is also related to our assessment 3 is the branding. Okay, well, this is what we mean by brand. Okay. Well, actually, more critical for us is the concept brand equity or brand value. which is basically brand equity, which is actually reflecting the value that a brand name gives to a product that affects the customer's decision making. Okay. Well, what is that actually? Well, if you think about two water brand, for instance, okay, this is Mount Franklin, okay, for argument's sake, 600 milliliter of water of Mount Franklin, we need to spend $3 roughly, okay. And if I tell you now, hey, look, guys, I'm going to change my career pathway to sell water, and this is my water, okay? The same 600 milliliters of water, and this is my name, right? This is my brand name, EW, Eddie Water, which is basically in my initial, okay? So $3. Which one would you like to buy?
Mount Franklin.
Right. We are friends, right?
Because I know the brand.
Right, fair enough, fair enough. I thought since we are friends, you are going to buy this one instead. There you go. That reflects the brand. That reflects the brand equity. Right? I don't have brand equity. These guys, right, doesn't have the brand equity yet. It has the brand name, but the brand name still means nothing for the customers. Okay. Okay. So actually, brand equity reflects four things. The first one is the brand awareness. Okay. The second one is the brand image. Okay. Brand awareness reflects the degree of knowledge that the customers have about our brand. Okay. Second one is brand image, which is basically about the word that our brand is associated to by the customers. Okay. The third one is brand loyalty, how whether they're committed or not to our brand, how committed they are to our brand. And last one is perceived quality, okay? Whether we sit in the top of the range or not in terms of quality, okay? All right, so that's branding. Now, the thing that I'd like to highlight to you in terms of brand, okay, these are the guys that I'd like to show you in terms of brand equity. They are the four dimensions of brand equity. And the other thing I'd like to highlight to you is in terms of brand equity, in terms of brand is these guys here, the manufacturer's brand or household or house brand or home brand. Okay, and there are two options in terms of branding. Okay, and now the other thing is this one. This one is relevant to your assessments in terms of branding, assessment 3 in terms of branding strategy. Okay. There are two options. Actually, there's a third one. The two options in here are basically about individual branding or family branding. Some companies adopt individual branding where they put a name for it on its product differently. Okay, if you look at Unilever, for instance, they use different name for different products. Okay, family branding, actually they use one brand for all product range, like Kellogg's, for instance. Okay, that's a pretty good example. And another company used both of them, combination of individual branding and family branding strategies. Okay, you look at Arnott's biscuit, for instance, they use both of them. Okay, they use the family brand like Arnott's cream biscuit or Arnott's milk arrowroot, Arnott's Scotch finger, and so on and so forth. And they also use individual branding such as Tin Pan shapes, for instance. Okay. Brand extension is an interesting one. Some brands, you can also discuss this for assessment 3, whether the brands is actually, whether the company adopts brand extension strategies, such as a Virgin brand that has been extended to a number of product categories, such as airline, mobile telephone company, telephone business, and also financial services. Okay, and brand extension, where they use the same brand name for new product in the same category, such as Pepsi. Co-branding normally adopted by companies, joining with the other company, the other brand. If you look at McDonald's Oreo ice cream, for instance, that's an example. Or Caltex Woolies petrol, for instance, that's not an example. They do co-branding, right? And your laptop may include co-branding strategies as well. If you look at, if you find Intel Pentium, for instance, they're actually using co-branding strategies. Okay. Right, so that's basically the main topics for this one. The next thing I'd like to discuss with you is briefly about the products. Before I do that, let me just bring let me bring up the file. Okay. Right. I just want to highlight again. I just want to highlight a few things under this category, this topic. The ones related to your assessment tree mainly. Okay. Product. Well, what is a product? Well, product is actually defined as anything that is offered, that can be offered for customers attention, acquisition, and also consumption that might meet the customer's need or wants. Okay, so that's what we mean by product. In the olden days, a product was defined as anything that we make. Right? Please define it from the customer's perspective. Okay, it is intended to meet the customer's need. Right? Now, the concept applied. The first concept I'd like to discuss with you is the three levels of products. I'm going to skip that one. 1 second. There's my thing in the. Oops. Oh, sorry, guys. Why is that in my slides? Oh, okay. The first concept I'd like to discuss with you is the three levels of products. Okay. The three levels of product includes core customer value or core products. Okay. The second one is the actual product. The third level is actually the augmented products. Okay. The core customer value actually reflects what the customers are really buying from us. Okay. What is it? Okay. It is actually related to the benefit or the promise of the product. Okay. So when we buy Qantas ticket, for instance, it's not because we want to get a piece of paper, but because we want to fly from A to B. So the core customer value in here is to fly from A to B. Think about buying a car, for instance. Okay. Well, we buy a car because we want to move from A to B. Okay. Now, actual product actually consists of a number of things that includes the brand name. Okay. The quality level, the design of the product, the packaging, okay, and the features, right? So, guys, please use this concept to help you detailing your product strategy for your assessment 3, okay? And augmented product is actually the additional benefits or service offered by the company for the customers to enhance the experience in using the product or service, okay? So that includes the warranty, for instance, okay? Post-sale service, okay, or information such as the 1300 number or 1800 number, okay. So that's basically the one that that we normally offer, okay. Okay, so that's the three levels of products. The next thing I'd like to discuss with you is the categories of consumer products. Okay, we have convenience products, shopping products, specialty product, and unsold product. As mentioned before, I would recommend you to use consumer product rather than business to business market products. Okay, we have 4 categories in here. The first one is convenience product, where normally they are not expensive. And from customer buying perspective, they are frequently purchased because customers use it on regular basis. And good example in here is basically anything in the grocery channel. Okay. The next one is shopping product, where the price is more expensive than convenience products, and buyers are willingly normally it includes a bit of planning, and the price is more expensive than convenience products, and customers do not buy this product as often as convenience product. So if you look at consumer electronic categories, for instance, okay, that's pretty, you know, we are not going to buy mobile phone every week or every month, for instance, like a convenience product, okay? And last one, the next one is specialty products, which is basically a luxury item, very expensive product, and a strong connection between the customers and the brand. Okay, and the last one is unsold product, where the customers' awareness are basically quite low in terms of unsold product, and even the customers are aware of it. If they can avoid it, they will avoid it. Examples include insurance. Normally, product categories, products that fall under this category would normally run heavy advertising campaign, okay, to increase the awareness, to remind people, and so on and so forth. Okay, right. So that's the categories of products. And look, if you are interested in business product for assessment 3, please go through it. Okay, I'm not going to discuss that more detail in here. The next one is the product mix, where we include the width of the product, which is basically the number of product lines in that the company offer, and depth of the product mix, which is basically reflecting the number of different products in the line. So if you think about a company such as Unilever or P&G, for instance, they have several product lengths. They have several product lines, okay? And that product lines actually reflect the width of the products, okay? And each line has several varieties, okay? And that is actually the depth of the product mix that we talk about, okay? So this is a good example, actually, in terms of product mix, width and depth. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines. So that reflects the product width, okay, of Procter & Gamble company, of P&G. And the varieties in here actually reflects the depth of the product strategy. Okay. All right, guys, that's basically the main ones I'd like to discuss with you for Module 3. Any questions?
No.
Yeah, all good? All right, brilliant. Now, look, I only have 5 minutes left. Can I suggest that we log out, we exit from the meeting room, and then we come back to the meeting room by clicking the same link, and we are going to do the practice quiz. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to tell you the password, yeah? All right, I'm going to exit from the current meeting room, yeah? All right, I'll see you soon, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.